You probably are aware of the fact that Disney is excellent at details. And we tried to detail this area of our park to look as much like Africa as we possibly could. So bear that in mind when you're looking at the plants, the vegetation, the landscape, as well as the animals, are typical of what you would find living in Africa.
Unfortunately, not the weather.
Not the weather. Well, actually, they get weather like this in Africa. Sure. Raise a paw. Very good. We're set to go. If you have things in your hands you're afraid you can't hang on to, there's a pouch in the back of that seat right there in front of you. You can stick things in. If you should drop something, please wave goodbye and then let me know so I can help you wave goodbye, because you'll never see it again. Right now you're seeing a little section of the ride most people never get to see because they have to get off back there. We're going underneath the bridge we just walked over top of, and as we do on the right hand side there are jets that spray the tires because this vehicle rubs up against that loading dock all day long, and that solution helps keep those tires from wearing out. In just a few minutes you guys are going to get a really unique opportunity. I love this. Can you guys all do the Disney wave? Looks like this. Okay, we're going by the loading docks right now. Just turn to your right. Good morning. How you doing? Hey. Long wait? That's the best part of my day. I love that. I forgot your name. Bob? Bob is our driver this morning. Everybody say good morning, Bob. Good morning, Bob. Right now, Bob's going to bring this vehicle to a complete total stop. And he's looking to the right, because if you're looking up to the front right of the vehicle, you'll see an old lamppost with a green lantern hanging on it. That green lantern is actually a timing device for Bob. And when that light comes back on again, he knows there's enough space between the vehicle that just left and us that they can't hear what's being said from one vehicle to the next. So here we go, downhill into the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, entering our first section that we like to refer to as the Ituri Forest. You know, Africa's not all jungle. There's lots of habitats there, one of them being a forested area like Disney recreated here in Florida with the vegetation as well as the wildlife. I'm going to try to point out that wildlife to you as we pass it this morning. Anything you see that I don't see, you've got a spotter's guide up over the top here. You can look up and find a picture of the animal. But way to the right-hand side in the far distance, you see an animal reaching up trying to get some leaves off a tree. He's kind of hiding behind a stump, which is a shame. But if you look at his picture, he's the okapi. He looks like he's wearing zebra pajamas. Stripes on the rear end and lower legs. Very unusual animal, found in forested areas like this in Africa. We've only known of that animal's true existence since the early 1900s, first time we actually captured it and studied it. As we're driving through the forest, you just never know where these animals are going to be. In fact, if you look at the hillside coming up on the right, you'll see a kudu lying up there on the top of the hill. Very similar to the deer we have here in this country. Simply watching the vehicles go by, great entertainment for them. But they have access to go anywhere they wish to down here. And to the far left, looking over there, you'll see a black rhinoceros standing out there in the distance. But if you look closely at the water moat, you'll see there's a fence in there also. Black rhino don't have the real mild-mannered disposition of some other animals. Much safer for us and for them, I guess. Pink-backed pelicans here on the left-hand side also. You should find living near water in a forest area. On the right-hand side, we're coming up on some really unusual-looking tree stumps. Oh, also, look at the top of the hill. Just spotted them up there. Reddish-brown animal with stripes. We call those the ghost of the forest, the bongo. They blend in so well with shade and shadow, sometimes they're impossible to spot. But look at their horns. See how their horns don't stick straight up off their head like most animals with horns? Instead, they slope back over their shoulders. Makes them very well adapted to live in thick underbrush, forest area like we're driving through right now. And you'd find in Africa in many cases. Right now we're going over some cattle guard, some chain and some wire tube pipe that go all the way across the road from one side to the other. So those animals don't need a gate. They won't step on that. So they will not come up this hill. At the top of the hill there's a road to the right and left. We're not going to drive on that, but should we need to get access back here with a veterinary truck or any kind of equipment, that's access to the backstage area out into the safari ride. We're still in the forest. We're coming up on the river that flows through the forest. We call this the Sapi River. In fact, we're going to drive right through that river this morning if Bob's not careful. On the right-hand side, sometimes we get a chance to spot some hippopotamus over here if you look carefully. Right now we have scientists studying the female menstrual cycle in the hippopotamus. And during that study we cannot allow the female to become pregnant. We have found the best birth control on earth for hippopotamus. On the right hand side is usually where you see the male hippopotamus, but if you're looking out to the left, you don't see the female hippopotamus. It's called separation, guys. Best birth control on earth. Totally separate from each other. Hippopotamus are nocturnal animals, much more active at nighttime than they are during the day. During the daytime they like to stay cool, quite often submerged in the water, although they do not swim. They walk along the bottom. They can only stay submerged about 6-8 minutes before they have to come up for air. Notice how the bank on the other side slopes up gradually, whereas on this side there's no way they could get out. Question? These are not our birds. Those birds are Florida birds. They're just here for the food. Yeah, nothing we can do about them. All of them. There's a hippo in the water down here on the left-hand side also. Again, walking along the bottom. Oh, look down now. Crocodile. African Nile crocodile. These are all male. They come in at night also when we call them. We ring a bell, we get them quail on a stick. It's probably more the quail. Those are all very much alive. See the ones with their mouths wide open? A lot of people say, Paul, I've seen them in the store like that. They're probably stuffed. Those are all very much alive. Oh, yeah. But when they keep their mouth open like that, that's thermoregulation. They can't sweat with sweat glands like we do to stay cool. So when they're lying in the sun or when they're too cold, they keep their mouth wide open to control the internal temperature of their body. Either warm up or cool off. Right now we're headed up a pretty steep hill. We're leaving that forest area behind, a different kind of habitat, moving out into the more open grasslands. But we call this West Savannah that we're coming up on right now. Different kind of animals and trees for that matter. And speaking of trees, look on the right hand side. The baobab tree, the upside down tree. It looks like its roots are growing up into the air. Your driver Bob would be telling you right now that tree only has leaves on it certain months of the year. I've been here every month of the year for many years. I have never seen a leaf on that tree. That is a Disney tree, guys. A couple of thousand years old to be that age, to be that size. We built our own. But look back over your right shoulder. Can you see the hollow dome on the side and that round camera hanging right there? You're looking at the world's most expensive tripod up on the top of that hill, where that camera is pointed out over the savanna here so that we can keep track of the animals. Coming down now onto the savanna, let's see what we can find in this much more open area than the forest we were just driving to. You know, on the right hand side, these big tall trees. In Africa, those are the acacia. That's what Disney wanted to plant. They're actually soft oak trees. They were already here. Instead of cutting them down, horticulture said we can prune and clip and trim, and Wilton will probably tell you they look exactly like acacia trees. But they're actually oak trees. But look closely at the trunk of every tree. Can you see the wire mesh on the bottom of every tree? Yeah. We had to protect the bark because the animals out here would love to eat the bark right off of an oak tree. On the left-hand side, back in the distance, you'll see some eland. Actually, the largest of most of the hoofstock animals you'll see in the grasslands that we're driving to. Huge, huge, long, twisted horns on their heads. And then coming up again on the front and to the left of the vehicle, you will see the Ankoli cattle. In Africa, quite often they call them Watusi cattle, because the Watusi tribe domesticated them and use them just like we do the cattle in this country. Those big, huge, long horns, many times over 6 foot long, very valuable for that animal because that's their radiator. As the blood flows through the horn, it cools off the blood and in turn cools off their whole body. These big things sticking up on the ground on the right side, coming up on the left, our driver be telling you that the termites mix mud with the saliva in their mouth to form those mounds almost as hard as concrete. Well, of course, here at Disney, they are concrete, yeah. We're not going to import any more termites into Florida than what we already have, so we built our own termite mounds. There are some leaves on the back of that tree over there, but if you were looking closely, you'd actually see there was a box attached there. One of the things we call a puzzle feeder, like the rock here on the right-hand side or the stumps that we passed, those are all Disney as well. Puzzle feeders, places where our keepers in the morning before these animals come out here can hide little bits of food, or put branches from a tree that we cut out of the enrichment area over off property that we put out here just to keep our animals happy, entertained, and down close to the ride path. Look at these grasses here on the right-hand side. Many of them look like they've been there a long, long time. Actually, horticulture probably planted most of them last night. Horticulture works out here all night long when the animals are back in the barn sleeping, replacing what these animals have eaten, knocked down, or somehow or other destroyed during the daytime. We've got a baby giraffe coming up on the right. Get your cameras ready. Great shot of that baby. Yeah.
Since there's no trucks behind us, can we take a little slower and stop off?
He's going about as slow as he can go right now.
Can't stop or anything?
No, we can't stop.
Okay.
He'll lose his job if he stops. He's a good driver. We're not going to let him stop. Look on the right-hand side. White-bearded wildebeest. One of the largest herd migrating animals in Africa today. Thousands at a time can be seen going across the open plains. And there's our newborn baby giraffe, only just a few weeks old here on the right-hand side. Mom's someplace. She's right on the left-hand side. I knew she'd be close.
Oh, there she is.
Coming up close to the vehicle, trying to decide whether they want to cross the road or not. There's some impala. There's an animal there with a black stripe down its side. That's... Stay there, Mom. Good girl. Okay. The hoof stock with the black stripe over there is actually a Thompson's Gazelle, more commonly called Tommy's. That's full grown. I know it looks real small like a baby. They only get to be about 60 pounds. Often thought of in the Savanna area as an in-between meal snack for the predators out here. Not at Disney, of course. You guys had a nice view of giraffe. Another one coming up here on the left. This dirt pathway leads right back to the giraffe barn. I told the people in my band this morning, giraffe are notorious gate huggers. If you can't find giraffe anywhere else, check the little molded milk balls all the way along that pathway. That's giraffe poop, guys. That's as big as it gets. And they like to stand right there by the gate, close to the giraffe barn, during the daytime saying, come on, open the gate. I'm going to go back in the barn. There's food waiting for me in there. A lot of times people want to know how we keep these animals from going where we don't want them to be. I'll show you a few things, but right now I want you to look closely at the stump on the right and the big rock on the left that we're driving between. Can you see the cleverly hidden gates in both of those objects? If we really needed to, we could totally close off that area from where we're coming into right now. On the left-hand side, see if you can find Rafiki over here from the Lion King movie, the Mandrill. This is Mandrill Island. The storm coming in, they may be looking for shelter right now, but there's lots of little crevices in the rocks and sometimes in the trees. Those mandrill are not really monkeys. Oh, on the right-hand side, there's our little boy and his mom and his favorite auntie. This is West Savannah. This is usually where we put one bull elephant all by themselves. But this morning we have two female and our little boy elephant out here. We can't put them in with the rest of the herd because this little boy is turning into a juvenile delinquent. He's a little too rough on those little girls you saw by the barn this morning. So we keep him and his mom and his favorite. Oh, look at him laying in the dirt over there. His name is Tufani. Our first little boy born here. If you were looking way past those elephants, you might have seen a gate back there. Because we sent these three elephants out here this morning all by themselves. They walked through a totally female, empty exhibit. Then we closed that gate. Then we sent out all the rest of the elephants. Rare traffic light there on the right-hand side. You don't see those in Africa very often. That traffic light told Bob, our driver, that it's okay to go over this bridge. I'm glad he checked first because I don't like the looks of this bridge. It does not look healthy at all. Wonderful feat of Disney Imagineering. Hang on tight right about now because here he goes. Oh, come on, Bob. Forward, get us off this thing before it goes over. Lean to your right. Oh, man, we made it. Don't worry, that bridge does that every time we go across it. The sounds you were hearing come from a speaker underneath. But if you look up right now, you'll see an elephant bridge. In order for those two female and that little boy elephant to get out where they had to walk across that bridge, and then we shut a gate behind them. Then we sent out all the rest of the female, and they should be over here on the left. We saw them up there at the barn this morning, waiting for their bath. Notice these things sticking up out of the ground on the way up to that bridge look like sparklers. It's actually electrified fencing. Try to camouflage it as best we can. But elephants are very, very curious, but because of their size, they're horribly destructive. Keep them back from places we don't want them to go. We try to put up a little electrified fencing once in a while. Unfortunately, one of our young females has learned recently that ivory does not conduct electricity. So she uses her tusk to hold those wires back and let the girls go past her where they're not supposed to go. We're trying to break her of that habit as quickly as we can. They are very intelligent animals. Some more beautiful tail bob trees that Disney built here on the right-hand side. And a big, huge one over there in the middle of the mini acre female exhibit. Coming up close on the left-hand side, you'll see their mud hole. They don't get in there and swim. Instead, they reach down in with their trunks to get a trunk full of mud, splash it up on their back, and let it dry. You know why? It protects them from sunburn, and it also protects them from insect bite. We wash it off every morning. They come out here and put dirt back on their mouth again, or back on their back again. Coming up now on their swimming pool. If you go on this ride this afternoon and if it should be raining, I guarantee you, you'll see at least one elephant down here in the pool. We don't know why, but we found our elephants love to swim in the rain. That pool is about 12 foot deep. It's filtered water. You can see the difference between what we're driving through and their pool. But they love to swim in the rain. There's one of our females standing over there. The two little girls we saw up at the barn this morning. Glad you got a good view of them because they're probably over on the other side of the trees right now. Left-hand side is Flamingo Island. Rosy pink color comes from the keratin and the shrimp that they eat. The white birds out there are Florida Ibis that we wish weren't here, but there's no way to keep them out. Oh my goodness, look at that island. Very familiar shape. I see two ears on the far side right now. Doesn't that look a little bit like a hidden Mickey? Yeah. One of the largest ones you can find anywhere. You can look down from the helicopter to see it. And as we go past these rocks again, look at the gates. If we needed to, again, totally close off this area from the one we're moving into. This is now east of Savanna. This is quite often the home of white rhinoceros. White rhino and black rhino are exactly the same color. Their difference comes from their lip. The white rhino got their name from the African word for wide or broad, which was white. They were calling it the white rhino and misinterpreted it as white. Ostrich eggs here on the right-hand side. Yes, those are real. Those are real ostrich eggs. Although, to be honest, we have hollowed them out, filled them full of concrete. The rhino we're playing soccer with a little too often, so we made them too heavy to kick around. But they are real ostrich eggs. Coming up on the left, sometimes we get a view of one of our large cats. The cheetah exhibit is here on the left. See if you can spot some lying in the grass over here. But can you see the moat? We don't like to point this out to everybody else, but see on the grass on this side, different height? There's about a 2-story deep, 20-foot across moat between us and the cheetah. It makes it impossible for them to get over to this side where they might find a lunch, or for us, for that matter, to get over to where they are because of that moat. Cheetah, like most big cats, are probably doing, there's one lying back there at the base of that tree. Just turned his head this direction. Doing what most big cats do, sleep. Not much we can do to change that habit. Coming up on the left is Pride Rock, and that is the home of our pair of African lion. See if we can spot them, but once again, backstage people, I'm pointing out the moat. Can you see the very, very deep moat separating us from Pride Rock? There's some animals here on the right-hand side that we'll get a view of as we come up around the corner. There's a male up here with his head up, which is quite unusual for the male. Usually we see the female looking around more than the male. Since in the lion, there's a female right next to him. Great view this morning, lying there in the sun. Lying there in the sun, did you catch that? In the lion world, the female does all the work. He just simply waits for his food. Sort of like my house. As we go around the corner, look to your left. You might find Hippo, the warthog, the largest of any of the burrowing mammals on Earth. See the burrows we provided them with? Those long, formidable looking tusks with a face only a mother could love. They like to back down into those burrows, rear end first, and leave those tusks sticking out for defense. Very shallow moat around their exhibit. On the right hand side, we've got a couple of Grant zebra. What do you think? Black horse with white stripes or white horse with black stripes? Actually, they have black skin, and then they have both black fur and white fur. But I want you to look at the animal lying down over there. Kind of that creamy white color, long, long horns. That is the scimitar-horned Oryx. Take a real good look at that animal. Wilton knows you won't find them in Africa. They are now pretty much extinct. They have been poached to extinction in the wild. The only place you will find them is in breeding facilities in zoos around the world. Here's the white rhino here on the right-hand side. I told you he's the same color as the black rhino, but they have a wide, broad lip, which was the African word for white, which was wide. So they were calling him the wide-lipped rhino. We thought they were calling him white. They're actually a big lawnmower. Uh-oh, look at this. These gates have been smashed open, everybody. Right now, through the speakers, Wilson, our warden, would be talking to you, and he'd be telling you that the poachers, in fact, have smashed those gates open. He's flying over in his airplane. Did you hear that? Might have seen the speaker there on the side of the hill. But Wilson would be talking to you right now, saying, can you guys leave the preserve and go off here into the jungle and see if you can cut those poachers off before they do any more damage? So Bob's going to see if he can do that this morning. Although you got to be, I think those poachers are shooting at us. Flash, everybody. First, I got to tell you, we are a big, slow-moving object, and they've never hit anybody out here. The worst shots in the world. We have been hit by these geysers, though. Watch out for these geysers as we go through here. Oh yeah, look at this. I can see where those poachers have actually set up camp right here in the jungle. They've been collecting elephant tusk and rhino horn illegally. Don't worry, there were no animals injured in the making of this ride. Those are only Disney's version of those horns and tusk. But that does look exactly the way we find poachers camp quite often. If you know Disney like I do, there's always a happy ending to the story, right? Yeah, look at this. Wilson, our warden, miraculously landed his airplane without a landing strip right here in the jungle. Everybody wave at Wilson. I'm afraid he's going to wave back someday and I'll have a heart attack. But look in the back of the truck. There's Little Red. We rescued Little Red from those poachers after they killed his mom. Little Red is our one and only audio animatronic animal that we have here at the Safari Ride, our only robot. All the rest of the animals you've seen this morning are all very, very much alive and practice many of the procedures that we've talked about on the program, coming in at night and so forth. We have to go back where we loaded down, by the way. I thank you so much for joining us on a safari this morning. Sorry we had to cut it short a little bit with those poachers, as we do every time we go on a safari. But we're going to be back to the docks where we're loaded in just a few minutes. Please remain totally seated till we get to that point. I think Bob did a fantastic job getting us around this morning. Let's all give him a big hand. Thank you, Bob. Didn't get lost this time. Yeah, that's because he's got a map on his lap. We get back up to the loading dock here. Our warden will be waiting for us, and when the warden says, "Hold, Simple One," that means you'll be able to start looking around for all of your belongings, take everything with you. And then I'm going to ask you if you would follow me just for a minute back up into Harambe, where I can kind of quickly wrap this up and send you all on your way. I have a little parting gift I'd like to give each of you before we say goodbye. A little token of our appreciation. See if he says, "Hold, Simple One." Simple One. Simple One. Okay.